The Rock Metal Podcast, episode 51 with Riotous Indignation. All right, Rock Metal Nation, I've got on the line today Riotous Indignation, a metal and hardcore band from Chicago, Illinois, USA, and I'm super stoked to have them on. Today I'm joined by a member of Riotous Indignation, Mike. Mike, welcome to the show.
How you doing, John? Say what's up to everybody, man. Thanks for tuning in and checking us out.
Absolutely. Now, Mike, why don't you go ahead and tell Rock Metal Nation a bit about yourself, maybe what inspired you along this path in music?
Well, like any other young kid, I started listening to music first with, what my parents' records were and what was on the radio. At a very early age, I started getting involved in, rock and heavy metal. I think, Ozzy's Crazy Train was the first thing that got me involved into that. And then, a few albums later, Speak of the Devil was released. And that was obviously the remake of all the old Black Sabbath classics. And, one of the songs that really stuck out was Children of the Grave, which, if you ask me, that formula in that song was actually the first time you heard a Galloping Palm time signature, breakdown, which I think that element is really what's in most of all of our hardcore metal songs today. So, that and being exposed to the Chicago punk and hardcore scene in the early 80s really kind of steered me into, what bands were doing and getting involved in my local music scene. I can honestly say that I did my first concert promotions before I was out of grade school. My first concert was Suicidal Tendencies. I was 13 years old. And, basically what I saw at a live event, the bands that were touring, even the local bands that were playing, they had a merch spread, they had a table, and it was like the same stuff that I saw at my local record store. So, at that point I had, kind of figured that, I did want to play music. And if you did play music, this is what you did, and I just, I've played in several bands, here in my city. One of them, which was called 13 and a half, actually started, this fast forwarding a couple of years, in 2002. We did some regional stuff here, and I did that for several years, and I was in a metal band called Instant Decay, which currently one of the members of my current band, Riotous Indignation, Bob Clayton, he was the guitar player for that band, but he's playing drums in this project now. And after that band, I had slowed down for a little while. I got tired of some of the shit that I dealt with. Being in a band, it's kind of like several alpha males crammed into a short bus, and sometimes you just the BS that you got to deal with, kind of gets it gets a little frustrating. And I kind of was done. Just, performing live music. I just mentally was like, I got to take a break from this. So I started doing some stuff with artist management and eventually started a small label here in Chicago. I realized that artist management is kind of an unrewarding and unforgiving place here in the music industry. It's a big pain in the ass, especially when you get into believing in people that, their projects are ultimately doomed to fail for whatever reason. And I ultimately, I built up a business. I built a lot of artist development stuff, based around this. And I still do content distribution, mostly to mobile. I take on clients that are a little bit larger size catalogs. So I do record labels, and I do, people with like, publishing catalogs and ringtone catalogs as well. Because, since streaming hit the market, it actually decimated a lot of revenues for, not only labels, but for aggregators and distributors as well. But, I still have that business. We're mostly mobile focused. I do stuff to some jukeboxes as well. But what I did after I started winding down the affairs of the labels, I wrote a book. I wrote a book called The Music Industry Self-Help Guide, which is now in its second edition. And, it's basically everything that I've learned through my own personal experience as a musician, and also, just different research and data analytics and things on marketing conversions. I mean, that there's a whole spectrum of artist development, brand development, and growth and emerging visibility that artists need to have as they step and emerge from the underground through the independent market. And I wrote that book to give them to empower them to create leverage to actually get in a position where they would be solicitable by a label, basically just I did that. I put it in it's in its second edition now, and as of late last year, Sam Ash Music picked it up. It's in 10 markets and available on their website. So I actually, as someone who never wrote a book before, I ended up just, by total grassroots DIY concepts, I wrote a book. I published the book myself, and now it's distributed through a national retail chain, which is the largest competitor of Guitar Center here in the United States. And I'm pretty proud of that. I did something I want to try to help people, and I've sat in several music conferences across the United States, and that's basically where I'm at with the book. After I got done writing that, I started tinkering around with the idea of performing live again. I mean, it kept me involved in independent and underground music, but not to the extent that I wanted to be. As a musician, I miss playing. I miss playing live. And in 2015, I started talking to some other musicians about putting this band together, and Riotous Indignation was basically formed by me and Bob Clayton. It was, I reached back to some musicians that I had jammed with in the past. I was looking for some new guys, for whatever reasons. Some of these younger kids, they've got a little bit more mobility, they look at things a little bit different way. I think at this point, I'm trying to develop this band not only, as an underground musician, but from a business perspective as well. So I try to cover everything from, our PR stuff and our brand visibility, even monetizing our content. I'm trying to get our music license as well, so we've got everything across the board, kind of in order the way a label would. But ultimately, Bob and I wrote the entire EP ourselves. There was, it was just us two members. So for the first several months of the band, we ended up writing the Violentis Music EP, which is, it's our debut release. And, ultimately that's the material that you have for your show. And we're working on new material now as well.
Wow. Very cool. Congratulations as well on having the Music Industry Self-Help Guide be in its second edition, and then also being, what's the word I'm looking for? Not syndicated, but propagated. No, not propagated. Anyway, it's Sam Ash.
Distributed.
Distributed. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, one of those words. Distributed by Sam Ash. That's definitely very exciting stuff. One of my next questions was going to be how the current lineup found each other. Well, it sounds like you just reached out to some musicians that you jammed with in the past. Mm-hmm. And then one of my questions was going to be like, hey, when you guys get together to write songs, what's that like? And so it sounds like you and Bob just kind of went into the woodshed, so to speak, and just kind of hammered some things out. Now I'm curious, is what inspired the name Riotous Indignation?
I was looking for, we're in a day and age where, people are just downright pissed off with the status quo. Global politics, geopolitical corruption, the things that governments do that don't necessarily represent the people. It ultimately, across the board, there's a lot of people that are upset. There's a lot of civil division amongst people who have, just different ideologies. And we're just in this really unbalanced temperamental state. A society is just in upheaval. And I wanted to pick a name, I guess, that kind of embraced that, and Righteous Indignation was actually my first, it wasn't one of my first choices, but it was a name that I thought it kind of stood alone, and honestly, there's a band with that name. It's just it might be a cover band or some pub band in the United Kingdom or something like that. I found them on Reverb Nation. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to use another band's name. I'm conscious enough about my brand development to whereas, we want something that stands alone. And riotous indignation, riotous is a term that is taking, self-righteousness to the next level and actually taking, the feeling or the mental state and actually turning it into a physical act. So hence the name Riotous Indignation.
Mm-hmm. Cool stuff. Let's go and listen to the first track we're going to listen to today, The End. Okay, coming back from The End, Mike, what is the story or inspiration behind The End?
Actually, this is the first time I've said this in a music interview, but I got shot twice back in 2000. And ultimately, this song addresses, gun violence, which we have a big problem with. But, I could have been like any other band, and I could have just, I could have wrote a song about glorifying gun violence, and I don't know. I mean, like, we're not some gangster, band or some shit like that. I mean, ultimately, I wanted to take something and put it from a perspective of the victim. And what I did was I actually incorporated a couple of things that are really not talked about much: spirituality, what happens through most people's goes through most people's minds in a life or death situation. What's going to happen to me after this is over. So I took these from a traditional religious sense, and I incorporated basically I wrote a song about of the victim's perspective of drive-by shooting, the song lyrics delve into demons and angels coming and fighting over his soul, and ultimately dragging him to his final destination based on the deeds and misdeeds he's done in his life. So we did do a video for this song as well, and that kind of imagery is actually portrayed within that video as well.
Absolutely. Let's go and listen to the next track, This World.
Many of us have pondered the question: how is it that we have come to this apocalyptic time where we are destroying all that we, along with all of our predecessors before us, have built? Our great nation's children have lost all sense of morality, while our borders are being overrun by those blind with religious zealotry. The vassals and lords who govern have been purchased and have sold our nation's future and security are no different than a common thief in a marketplace. From within our own borders, the evil that we combat is enslaved to its own devices and has a face that has no God, no patriarch, no trade of vocation, no learned knowledge, no respect for life and neighbor, and no redeeming moral code. We've all witnessed the de-evolution of an organized society from one that has disdain for authority to one that has a complete and utter hatred for all things civil and good. It sadly comes into question: are we at war with one another, or are we at war with ourselves?
All right, coming back from this world. Speaking of thought-provoking stuff in the music, that was quite the intro, good sir.
Thanks a lot.
Now, similar question: what is the story or inspiration behind this world?
Well, just as I had mentioned when we spoke about the band name, like this world is it's in a state of upheaval, and I mean, there's just so many different things that are happening. Anybody who watches the news for 20 minutes can see just like a large amount of problems and different cultural biases and it's difficult for me to kind of just put it in one sentence. Ultimately, this world really just talks about where we're at, as a civilization, as a society, and how we're basically on the cusp of failure. When you look at civilizations like Babylon and Rome and any other, great empire from the past, as the song says, I mean, there comes a point where society fails itself and just collapses on its own weight, and through warfare, civil unrest, or a combination of everything. And I tried to paint a picture with all the conflicts and all the inner conflicts that we're having, and just paint that into one song. And I think if anyone was to look at really listen to the lyrics of that song, I mean, I cover a pretty broad range of things that are like really troubling us now as a society. And that was the inspiration for it. I mean, as the song says, this fucking world is turned into a garbage can. I mean, and it's like, we're all kind of, like on that downward spiral down the toilet, and I just figured I'd address it, and a lot of people would identify with it.
Yeah, indeedly do. Okay, so what exciting news does Riotous Indignation have for Rock Metal Nation to pay attention to?
Well, I mean, I've been doing my own PR stuff mostly. We do have a publicist that we work with intermittently. As I just told you, the music video for The End has just come out. We are kicking around the ideas of, we're just kind of banking footage for a documentary that, we'll end up releasing later. We're nobody important yet. So, I mean, it's just, like we're just trying to archive footage. But this summer, we don't have any touring planned as of yet. We're working on a full-length album. We've done some local stuff around here, but we are looking for a bass player right now. I believe we have one who's actually, he lives in Michigan. I just started reaching out to him this past week. It's somebody that I've known for quite some time, but, how soon this falls into place remains to be seen. However, we are currently on like about 40 radio stations in 7 countries. Including yours. And, I want to thank you for, giving us a platform to broadcast our music. But, what we're going to do is work on this full-length album, which I think will be a blend of styles and just kind of, pushing what you heard to the next level. And ultimately, start planning for, a tour for that release. I project this release probably be coming out in late 2017 or early 2018. And, another video, we'll be working on that for some of the newer material. Probably not anything that's remaining on the EP.
Okay, cool. So Rock Metal Nation, we're going to be looking for a release in late 2017, early 2018, and then another music video for the newer material. So if you definitely dug the tracks that you heard here today, my next question is going to make the most amount of sense, and that is, Mike, how can Rock Metal Nation find out more about you? Is there a website that they should go to?
I have a couple actually. Obviously the band has its own YouTube channel. We have our all social media, Google Play, Google Plus, Twitter, Facebook, the whole 9 yards. The book, the Music Industry Self-Help Guide.com, has a 3-chapter free sample on there, which the preface and the editor's notes delve into my background as a musician, and you get a little bit idea of how I think. This is a radio interview, So like I'm a little bit toned down more than I usually am, but I mean if you listen if you read the book, you're gonna kind of get the perspective of somebody who I come across as brash a little bit sometimes, but what I'm trying to do is basically, pound some sense in the heads of the most stubborn people that might need it. In this industry, there's a lot of people that won't listen even for their own good. So I wrote a book that's basically like somebody sitting on a bar stool next to you talking shit to you, but yet at the same time, it's filled with a lot of valuable advice, but it'll make you laugh. It'll piss you off. It'll make you really get introspective and think about, what's the main thing that's holding you back, which in most cases is yourself, and ultimately, so yeah, between, the website for the book, which is the music industry self-help guide.com, and then also riotousindignation.com. Those are the two main places to get a hold of me. Also, I have a website called repelmedia.com, which is, where I base my digital content distribution operations off of.
All right, fantastic. So Rock Metal Nation, go ahead and head over to riotousindignation.com or repelmedia.com. Both of those links will be on the show notes for today, so you can also go to the rockmetalpodcast.ca where you're going to be able to get more information about today's show, the music video that was mentioned earlier today, and as well those two links if you are a super duper huge fan after what you've heard today from Mike and as well as the tracks. So Mike, unless there's anything else you wanted to throw out there, just wanted to thank you for coming on and sharing your creativity with Rock Metal Nation.
I just want to tell all the listeners, thanks for taking the time, to, hear a little bit more about our band. I hope you enjoyed the music, and there's more to come. So, stay tuned.
All right, Rock Metal Nation. Hopefully you just found your new favorite band in Riotous Indignation. Big thanks again for them for coming on and sharing their music with us. Make sure to head over to www.therockmetalpodcast.ca to get all the information on the show you just heard today. And until then, rock on, Rock Metal Nation.